biggest ever investment in climate action, lowering energy costs, promoting energy independence, and creating good paying jobs. And it's fully paid for by ensuring that the very wealthiest and giant corporations are simply paying their fair share in taxes, all the while reducing our deficit. Experts agree that this will help us tackle inflation in a very meaningful way. So I want to break down this bill in a few buckets for you. First of all, lowering the cost of prescription drugs. This legislation would drastically lower prescription drug costs and finally let Medicare negotiate drug prices. This is a big deal and a huge step forward, and it's something that I've been working on as the chair of the Senate Health Committee for a long time. That will help lower drug costs for patients across the country, and that matters. But our seniors are especially susceptible to skyrocketing drug costs because so many of them are on fixed incomes. There are more than 2.5 million seniors in Washington state, and they should not have to worry about being able to afford the medication that they need. So I'm really proud to say this bill caps out-of-pocket costs per year for Medicare beneficiaries at $2,000. And our legislation caps price increases on prescription drugs at the rate of inflation. And that will seriously make a difference for so many families. On healthcare costs, this bill is helping people get quality, affordable coverage by extending the Affordable Care Tax credits that we passed when we passed the American Rescue Plan. Here in Washington state, we saw a record enrollment because of this relief. 2/5 of people finding coverage for less than $100 a month. So we extend that in this bill. And actually more than 60,000 Washingtonians gained new coverage as a result of those enhanced subsidies. And more than 70% of exchange customers in Washington state now qualify for some level of subsidy, up from 62% last year. And this is big. Over 100,000 customers on the exchange now pay $100 or less per month for their insurance. Because of the Inflation Reduction Act, those cost savings are going to be extended. Climate. Now, I said at the start of this Congress that this is our moment to deliver a landmark investment on climate, and this bill delivers. Here in Washington state, we know the climate crisis is real, and we are leading the way on climate action too. But we can't do it alone, just our state. This bill is going to help our state tackle the climate crisis while lowering energy costs for consumers, promoting energy independence, and creating good paying jobs. This is a huge deal for Washington state and will only bolster the work that we're already doing. There are going to be big cost savings for consumers. We're talking about major tax credits where people purchase clean vehicles up to $4,000 for purchasing a used vehicle and up to $7,500 for new clean vehicles. We're also talking about home energy rebates and consumer tax credits to help everyone invest in energy efficiency, rooftop solar, heat pumps, electric SVAC, and a lot more. Importantly, this is going to provide incentives to help get our utility companies to build more clean energy to help us all transition to clean energy. And the same goes for other industries like auto manufacturers and others. This is going to help us create a clean energy economy that will create good paying jobs and also setting us on the path to lower emissions by 40% by 2030, 8 years from now. And that also helps us promote real energy independence, not just from dirty fossil fuels, but also from foreign adversaries, which recent months have shown us is absolutely critical. And this is all paid for. Our bill will help rebuild the IRS to go after those giant corporations and the very wealthiest who are cheating on their taxes. And it sets a very straightforward 15% corporate minimum tax to ensure that the wealthiest Americans and corporations simply pay their fair share of taxes. So not only is this fully paid for, but this bill actually reduces the deficit by more than $300 billion. People in Washington state are worried about rising costs and inflation, and it's a major challenge we have to take seriously. There's no silver bullet, but we have to tackle inflation from every single angle we can, and this Inflation Reduction Act will help millions of families in our state while decreasing inflationary pressure. It is going to make an important difference. I'm working hard to get this done, to lower everyday costs for the basics like prescription drugs and health insurance, and to tackle climate change while investing in a stronger, clean energy economy. So I'm very excited about this bill, and I'm happy to have two folks with me who can talk about it in depth, and I want to turn it over to Kathy to start first.
Thank you, Senator Murray. So we are thrilled at AARP. After years of discussion and negotiation, Congress is finally on the cusp of delivering real prescription drug price relief for millions of older Washingtonians and Americans across the country. The Inflation Reduction Act of 2022 before the Senate now includes top priorities for AARP, including allowing Medicare to negotiate for price of drugs, capping the out-of-pocket cost of prescription drugs on Medicare Part D at $2,000, which is huge for people who are paying significantly more amounts of money on a monthly basis for their prescription drugs. And also this bill holds drug companies accountable when they increase drug prices faster than the rate of inflation. And the other really great provision is the capping of copays for insulin to no more than $35 a month. The policies before the Senate now have broad bipartisan support among voters and would save taxpayers and Medicare billions of dollars. For 2 decades, Medicare has been legally prohibited from negotiating for lower drug prices, and the pharmaceutical industry has been fighting to keep that prohibition in place to protect their profits. And seniors are counting on Congress, and right now the Senate is at a key inflection point to finally bring them real price relief for prescription drugs. AARP cannot overstate what a monumental improvement and historic opportunity this prescription drug package will be for older Americans and all people struggling to afford their medication. Thank you very much, Senator Murray.
Thank you, and we will now hear from Jamal.
Thank you, Senator Murray, and thank you, Kathleen. My name is Jamal Rod. I grew up in Washington State and am a Seattle resident. I run Evergreen Action, which is a climate policy and advocacy organization that grew out of Governor Ainsley's team and vision. The Inflation Reduction Act is the most significant federal climate investment legislation in American history, and it stands to supercharge our transition to a clean energy economy. I want to thank Senator Murray for her leadership on this issue. She knows how important it is to act quickly, act now, to not only save Washingtonians money on their energy bills, but to stave off the worst impacts of the climate crisis. In Washington State, we know that climate change is not a chart or a graph or happening in some far off future. It's the smoke that fills our skies in the summer. It's the acidification that is hurting our oyster industry. I'm wearing an I Oyster t-shirt right now, and I'm a huge fan of oysters and would like to keep that industry and that treat for me here in Washington State. This bill will cut carbon pollution and give the US a fighting chance of meeting President Biden's climate commitments. It will combat inflation by cutting energy costs, making US a competitive player in the global clean technology market, and drive historic funding in underserved communities, $60 billion towards environmental justice funding. At the same time, this is a compromise reached after a lengthy and difficult negotiation. As such, this package is not a silver bullet. We will need to do more. We will need Senator Murray's continued leadership on this issue to continue pushing to move us forward to defeat the climate crisis. However, these investments are essential to transforming the American economy so that future generations will not be subject to the environmental injustices. The investments in the Inflation Reduction Act will achieve approximately a 40% reduction in US greenhouse gas pollution below 2005 levels by 2030, getting the nation more than 2/3 the way towards hitting President Biden's crucial goal of cutting climate pollution 50% by 2030. We know that skyrocketing fossil fuel prices have become the leading driver of inflation for the over half of the current inflation that Americans are experiencing. Clean energy costs have barely budged over that time. We know that investing in clean energy will lower energy costs, reduce inflation, and according to Rewiring America, people who take advantage of the full suite of programs, including home appliance electrification, new electric vehicles, could save $1,800 per year by 2030. And because of Governor Inslee, because of Senator Patty Murray and other Washington leaders who have focused on Washington being an important hub for the clean energy revolution, Washington is poised to take real advantage of this federal investment. Analysis commissioned by the Blue-Green Alliance found that this bill would grow the workforce by 9 million jobs over the coming decade. Many of those jobs are going to be right here in Washington state. Our low carbon fuel standard will make the EV tax credits much more attractive and impactful. Our clean electricity standard will become easier to achieve with the climate pollution reduction grants and the clean energy tax credits embedded in this bill. So Washington is poised to take huge advantage of this investment. This will lower energy costs for consumers. It'll take us along the path to meeting President Biden's climate goals. This is a hard compromise. But it's clear that these investments are necessary to advance the clean energy transition, hit our key climate targets, strengthen Washington's economy and America's economy, and more. So with that, I will send it back to Senator Murray.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to Zach to call on folks for if they have any questions.